Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. Thank you so much for being with us. We're looking at the New World Translation update, the 2013 update. This is Jehovah's Witness Bible update. So let's get started. And I've done a review, maybe more than one, on the New World Translation over the years. You know, when you made several thousand videos, you kind of lose track sometimes. But we're on jw.org. Now, of course, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I believe in the deity of Jesus Christ. And there's some things I do admire about the Jehovah's Witness. I appreciate the steadfastness of their convictions, for sure. But I just would say they're wrong doctrinally. So, and their Bible is based so much on the critical text, and that I'm definitely not a fan of their Bible. Besides the fact they kind of try to weed out the deity of Jesus. I was reading something the other day. They were showing, or maybe I was watching a video, how you can still show the deity of Jesus out of even the New World Translation. I remember my good mentor, Brother Don Knight, who started the Pentecostals of Stone Mountain DeKalb UPC way back in the day, and he would win them to God with their Bible, you know. So let's get started. 213 revision and New World Translation. Do check out our other videos, by the way. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, join us daily, and let's look at this. So over the years, the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures has been revised a number of times. But the 213 revision was by far the most extensive. I think I read about one in 60 or 61, 63, but here it just says numerous times. For example, there are now about 10% fewer English words in the translation. So that's like a massive difference between the Byzantine text and the critical text Bibles, is there are many tens of thousands of words shorter anyhow. Like the ESV is 30,000 words short. The NIV is 64,000 words or so. I've done videos on both of those shorter than the King James because it's a deleted text. And some key biblical terms were revised, looking at this again. Certain chapters were changed to poetic format, and clarifying footnotes were added to the regular edition. It'd be impossible in this article to discuss all the changes, but let us consider a few of the main adjustments. So which key biblical expressions were changed? As we mentioned in the preceding article, the renderings for Sheol, Hades, and Soul were revised. Of course, we're not reading the previous article for this. Additionally, though, a number of other items or terms were adjusted. For example, impaled was changed to executed on a stake or nailed to the stake to avoid giving a wrong impression how Jesus was executed. That's Matthew 20:19, 27:31. Of course, they would interpret stauros as a stake and not a cross, which is, like, if you read Vines, he's kind of for that as well. But I think archaeologically you could show very much, like the Alex Minos Graffito and others, that it was a cross. Loose conduct was adjusted to brazen conduct, which conveys the contemptuous attitude embodied in the Greek term. The expression long-suffering, as previously used, can be misunderstood to mean suffering for a long time. Patience better conveys the right sense. I would say long-suffering. Revelries was replaced with wild parties, which would be better understood today. Galatians 5:19-22. In place of loving kindness, the thought is accurately rendered loyal love. That captures the meaning of a Bible term often used in parallel with faithfulness. Now, I appreciate that Psalm 36:5, 89:1. Somebody recently, because one of the videos I did on the New World Translation still gets quite a few views, even though it's many years old, somebody saying, well, the people who translated the New World Translation weren't quite as ignorant of biblical languages as sometimes evangelicals make them out to be. And I appreciated his perspective. And look, if you have to lie in order to prove your point or lie to besmirch a group that you're in disagreement with, well, you're at fault. Bearing false witness is always wrong. So I appreciated his perspective. They're really big, like on blood transfusion and stuff too, avoiding this. Some terms that had consistently been translated with one expression are now translated according to context. For example, the Hebrew olam, previously rendered time indefinite, can have the sense of forever. Compare how this affects the rendering in verses such as Psalm 90, verse 2, and Micah 5:2. The Hebrew and Greek terms translated seed appear often in the scriptures, both in agricultural sense and the figurative meaning of offspring. Past editions of the New World Translation consistently use seed, including in Genesis 3:15. However, using the term seed in the sense of offspring is no longer common in English, so the revision uses offspring, gives some verses there. Why have many literal renderings been adjusted? Appendix A1 of the 213 revision says that a good Bible translation will communicate the correct sense of a word or a phrase when a literal rendering would distort or obscure the meaning. When the original language idioms make sense in their languages, they're rendered literally. Following this approach, the expression searches the heart, such as Revelation 2:22, makes sense in many languages. However, in the same verse, searches the kidneys may not be readily understood. So kidneys was revised to innermost thoughts, which I've always thought that interesting. Searching the kidneys, because that is kind of literal. Why are the expressions sons of Israel and fatherless boys now translated Israelites and fatherless children? It goes into that. Why has the rendering of many Hebrew verbs been simplified? And then it goes, why are more chapters now in poetic format? Goes into a reasoning for that. How did study of the original language manuscripts affect the revision? So the original New World Translation was based on the Hebrew Masoretic text and the respected Greek text by Westcott and Hort. The study of ancient Bible manuscripts has continued to advance, shedding light on the reading of certain Bible verses. Readings from the Dead Sea Scrolls have become available. More Greek manuscripts have been studied. Much updated manuscript data available, evidences in computer formats, making it easier to analyze the differences between manuscripts to determine which reading, the Hebrew or Greek, is best supported. New World Bible Translation Committee took advantage of these developments to study certain verses, resulting in some changes. And so then it has features of the NWT. Then Doug Beaumont has a article on this, and this is from October 23, 2013, the Silver Sword edition. John is still inconsistently translate the same word for God as a God or God when referring to Jesus, little g. John 8:58 is still translated I have been to avoid the clear reference to Exodus 3:14, which Jesus' Jewish audience clearly understood. Hebrews 1 still inconsistently translate worship as obeisance and Lord, in all caps, instead of Jehovah, with reference to Jesus, and his throne is still somehow God. Colossians, it goes into this. Revelation 1:13. Is that one? No, 5:13, excuse me. So the conclusion he makes, as near as I can tell, the revised NWT, or the RNWT, poses no more threats to Orthodox Christianity than previous versions have, with the exception of the removal of the brackets around the words other in Colossians 1. So I did want to say this. Strangely enough, if you compare the New World Translation in many, many passages with almost all modern versions, they're going to agree because they're using the same Greek text. It's only Reformation text Bibles, and like your MEV or the KJV ER or the KJV Simplified, or maybe the Majority Standard version, that is going to read differently. And let's see, was there another little article here? Let me just hit this. And here's the history. This is kind of important. This is just on Wikipedia, but it makes some good points. Until the release of the New World Translation, Jehovah's Witnesses in English-speaking countries primarily used the King James Version. And I've used that, like when I've dealt with Jehovah's Witnesses and tried to win them to further truth and all of this. I keep like a JW Authorized Version, because they're like, well, this is the Word of God. It's kind of like the Living Bible. It's kind of how they talk about the New World Translation, but I'll say you used to use the King James, and it kind of like shakes them a little bit sometimes. So a fresh translation of the New Testament, which Jehovah's Witnesses usually refer to as Christian Greek Scriptures, was proposed October 1946 by the president of Watchtower, Nathan H. Knorr. Work began December 2nd, 1947. The New World Bible Translation Committee was formed, composed of Jehovah's Witnesses who professed to be anointed. The Watchtower Society is said to have become aware of the committee's existence a year later. So they weren't even, that's pretty amazing. The committee agreed to turn over the translation to the Society for publication September 3rd, 1949. And so it goes into that. Several chapters of the translation were read to the directors, who then voted to accept it as a gift. The New World Translation of the Christian Greek Scriptures was released at a Jehovah's Witness convention at Yankee Stadium, August 2nd, 1950. Translation of the Old Testament was released in 5 volumes from 53 through 1960, single volume in 1961. It has undergone various revisions. Cross-references that had appeared in 6 separate volumes were updated, including complete volume. By 1989, been put in 56 million copies. I think that's up to like 240 million if I read that somewhere. Let me just see this here. Nope, it's not going to give me how many revisions. Then it's got an article on the translators that you may want to take a look at. It says, former high-ranking Watchtower staff have identified various members of the translation team. In 1983, governing body member Raymond Franz listed Nathan H. Knorr, Frederick W. Franz, Albert D. Schroeder, George D. Gangus, and Milton G. Henschel as members of the translation team, adding that only Frederick Franz had sufficient knowledge in biblical languages. And referring to the identified members, evangelical minister Walter Ralston Martin said in 1997, New World Bible Translation Committee had no known translators with recognized degrees in Greek or Hebrew exegesis or translation. None of these men had any university education except Franz, who left school after 2 years, never completing even an undergraduate degree. Now that doesn't matter, really, as long as you know the language. Frederick Franz, because you can go to school for 3 years and say you have a degree in the language and not know it that well. Frederick Franz had stated that he was familiar not only with Hebrew, but Greek, Latin, Spanish, Portuguese, German, and French. 2003, Jason Bedouin noted the members of the translation team remained anonymous, just as they do for the New King James Version and the Lockman Foundation NASB. So that's all pretty interesting. In the 2013 revision, which we're talking about today, the pericope adulterae, John 7:53, 8:11, and Mark 16, 8 through 20 were removed. Just all of this. So that's pretty amazing too. Now, one thing is a lot of modern textual scholars like the New World Translation because they think it uses a great modern Greek text. So that's about it. Again, I was kind of hoping, here's editions. 1984, reference edition. Just how many times it's been updated. So I just don't know how many times it's been updated. So God bless. Thanks for being here. Stick with the King James. See you later. Bye-bye.